Masochism, noun. 1. Gratification gained from pain, deprivation, degradation, etc., inflicted or imposed on oneself, either as a result of one's own actions or the actions of others, especially the tendency to seek this form of gratification. 2. The act of turning one's destructive tendencies inward or upon oneself. 3. The act of willingly and unironically playing ghosts and goblins. Honestly, now I'm just a computer, but I'm starting to get very concerned about your mental well-being, you sick demented sack of self-loathing and anguish. Stop hurting yourself. Nobody cares.
Ghosts and Goblins. Originally released in the arcades in 1985, it would later be ported to virtually everything that could run it at the time, most notably the Nintendo Entertainment System. The game was known for its absurd and borderline unfair quarter-swallowing difficulty, even on home consoles.
And I beat it!
And as we just clearly cited with the intro, only means you hate yourself.
Well, yes, but there is a lot of fun to be had while playing a game this difficult. The stakes are incredibly high, so you need to be on your A game the entire time to survive, giving you tremendous amounts of self-satisfaction and accomplishment when you do succeed.
So, you did beat it twice for the real ending, right?
What? Oh, shut up. That sounds like the dumbest schoolyard prank I've ever heard.
Nah, it says right here that beating the game once only gives you a false ending.
Okay, I admit when I beat it, I kind of blacked out.
And the only way to get the real ending is by beating the entire game a second time.
Wait, you're serious?
Does this look like the face of mercy?
Oh my god, is it any harder the second time?
Nope, it's exactly the same. Probably because it's not possible for it to even get any harder in the first place.
Bring it on, Satan! It's time for round 2!
What's wrong with you?
It's in my blood!
What is, hatred?
Yes!
We already mentioned it, but it begs repeating. This game is hard.
It's the good kind of hard.
Debatable. Anyway, Ghosts and Goblins is a side-scrolling platformer with various projectile weapons at your disposal to deal with the onslaught of enemies thrown your way. Luckily, the game's 6 levels are all generally short.
The challenge comes in dodging or defeating the barrage of enemies as you make your way through the levels. There's so many different creature types, projectiles, and bizarre movement patterns that keeping track of it all without losing your composure can be the real challenge.
Well, since you're kinda running and gunning, this game kinda plays like Capcom's other retro property, Mega Man. However, unlike Mega Man, Arthur can only hold one weapon at a time. Granted, it has infinite ammo, but if you so much as accidentally touch a weapon you didn't want, sorry. That weapon is gone, and you need to live with your mistakes.
And weapon drops are totally random. To make matters worse, if you accidentally grab a weapon you don't like and die, you'll respawn holding that new weapon. However, this does make hanging onto a good weapon a lot easier, assuming you avoid every other weapon drop like the plague from then on.
There's the lance you start with, which is alright. The dagger, also known as the knife, is a straight up better lance, throwing faster and dealing more damage. The torch, which chucks powerful fireballs but can only have 2 burning on screen at once. The axe, which is also limited to 2 projectiles on screen at once but can pass through enemies, which in my opinion makes it kinda worse. And the shield, which we'll talk about later.
Early on, I like grabbing the torch as it can take out powerful enemies like the Red Devils with a few well-placed rapid shots. But no matter what, if you can get your hands on the dagger, don't you dare ever let go, as that puny blade is by far the best weapon in the entire game due to its crazy speed and power. But don't kid yourself if you're thinking it's gonna make this game easy.
Several bosses are even completely immune to certain weapons like the axe or lance, so getting the torch, or more importantly, the dagger, is critical to your survival. Unless you like arriving at boss battles only to discover that your weapon does absolutely nothing.
Speaking of the bosses, they start becoming regular enemies, scattered through later levels as if this game weren't already ridiculously hard enough.
Beating levels will allow you to start at the beginning of the next one perpetually, even after a game over, which is super generous. Your lives are basically there to help you get to and spawn at the various checkpoints after death, making completing the levels that much more bearable.
And it's because of this one simple implementation that made me go from laughing at this game's absurdity to wanting to actually beat it. It's a crazy challenge, yes, but at least the game is fair enough in allowing the player to keep trying without overly punishing them for failure.
At least that part's fair, because we haven't mentioned what truly makes this game so obnoxiously hard. Arthur isn't the tankiest of knights. With just one hit, he loses his armor and comically runs around in his underwear. With a second hit, he loses his life. crumbling into a pile of bones.
That's right. There's an onslaught of enemies and projectiles, ducking and weaving all over the screen, tricky platforms, climbing sections to navigate, clunky jumping controls with a boss at the end of it all, and you can only get hit twice.
And if all that weren't bad enough, when you finally beat the level 6 boss, you'll be greeted by this lovely message. This weapon has not effect. Okay, try again, get a shield. And as punishment for falling for this beginner's trap, you're sent all the way back to the start of level 5! That's like Ninja Gaiden Act 6 levels of unfair!
To make matters worse, Stage 6 is absurdly tough as it is, and the slow, crappy shield weapon is just not gonna cut it. The only way I ever beat this was by clearing the entire path forward with the dagger, then running all the way back for the shield, then back up to the boss to finish them. Yes, killing all the red devils and past bosses now casually masquerading as normal enemies is stupid hard, but the real challenge in this level is beating the timer.
Yeah, you're also timed in this game, and it's not generous.
I'll tell you right now that beating level 6 with the shield is by far the hardest part of the entire game, because the final boss encounter afterwards is actually hilariously easy. You just back up and spam attack and he'll die in seconds. But even so, crap like this can still happen. But don't worry, you still win and get greeted by this lovely message. Congratulations! This story is happy end. Nice try, Japan.
So yeah, the game's hard! I find the jumping to be the clunkiest of all, since you can't move or control Arthur after jumping. Once you've jumped, you've committed. And more often than not, jumping excessively will only lead to your death.
Oh yes, the controls are awful, the levels are unfair and even breakneck difficult, but I still enjoy this game. It's just forgiving enough to make you feel the intense urge to overcome its challenges.
Yeah, maybe if you're a maniac.
This game looks good enough for being as old as it is. Especially from being ported to the Commodore 64, Amiga, and the NES, it still holds up that arcade look relatively well.
But what the heck is up with the enemies? You start with zombies, skeletons, and Little Shop of Horrors plants, before getting swarmed by screaming pigs in a blanket? Ghost knights that whiz around the screen like Hyper Medusa heads from Castlevania? And a giant hulking ogre apparently named the Unicorn?
Oh, you want to get into the boss's names? How about the boss of Stage 5, aptly named Satan? Then the boss of Stage 6, 2 Satans. Yes, you heard me right, 2 Satans. And then if you beat them with the shield for your final boss, the Devil, also known as, and I love this, Great Satan. So you've got Satan, Double Satan, and Great Satan.
I can't wait for one of them to get anime hair and go full on Super Satan.
There's also a bunch of other items you can pick up that basically amount to nothing but points, so in the context of a game this hard, nobody cares!
But I love that aside from the money bags and, no kidding, dolls that you collect, you can also collect the princess's accessories. While getting kidnapped, she apparently dropped everything from her jewelry to her tiara, and must have gotten stripped bare as well, as you can also find her slippers, dress, and even her underwear.
Funny how she's still fully clothed once you rescue her. They should have pulled a reverse Metroid ending or something if they were gonna go there with her clothes.
Nah, they just wanted 8-bit flashing underwear. Arthur and Princess Prin are hanging out in the cemetery alone, where Satan suddenly appears and kidnaps the princess. Arthur suits up, considering he was just laying there in his underwear, and immediately the onslaught of ghosts and goblins begins.
He was just hanging out with the princess in his underwear in a secluded location.
Yeah, why?
Arthur just got cock-blocked by Satan.
Well, that explains his tenacity, as the guy then has to venture through hell itself to save the princess, defeating all sorts of monsters and demons in his path.
And eventually, after defeating the devil, not Satan, remember, we killed 3 of them just getting here.
Aren't they supposed to be the same?
Shut up. So you get this false ending bullcrap. This room is an illusion and is a trap devised by Satan.
But we just killed them.
Yeah, I know. Go ahead dauntlessly. Make rapid progress. With 1 S, apparently.
Didn't they even spell check this game?
So you're forced to beat the entire game all over again. And you know you're on the second run when you start with the shield, which you better get rid of fast, considering the Unicorn, the first boss, is impervious to the shield, by the way.
That's evil.
So after dredging through that entire ungodly slog for a second time, you're finally given a proper ending. Or, well, you get an ending.
What do you mean?
You read it.
Being the wise and oh my god.
Keep going, it gets better.
Courageous knight that you are, randomly some extra spaces, you feel strongeth welling, period, in your body, period, return to starting point, challenge again.
That right there made the entire journey worth it.
Satan kidnapped and stripped your girlfriend and sent you on a ridiculous gauntlet endurance run through hell itself twice!
Yet I still feel strongeth welling.
Every single track in this game just makes me want to scream.
Ignoring the fact that listening to it while you play a crazy hard game makes your Pavlovian response to it so morbid, how is it really?
It sounds like a cat running across a pipe organ.
Which version, the arcade, NES, or?
They all sound like that. And speaking of the other versions, how come when the game got a sequel for the next generation like the Super Nintendo, the series got changed to Ghouls and Ghosts?
That was clearly an illusion devised by Satan.
Yeah, these people are about as illiterate as a boomer on 4chan. This game is way too difficult to recommend. Unless you play it with friends or just enjoy the pain, you can skip this one.
Does your Courageor leave your strongeth welling?
Don't be tempted to complete an absurdly hard game just for a stupid end screen somebody typed with boxing gloves.
In your body?
Stop hurting yourself. The positive gamer in me is scared to admit I give Ghosts and Goblins an average 5 out of 10. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I admit to randomly pulling this game up every once in a while for a good time with friends. It is, however, so unjustifiably hard, it's mostly become more of a meme than a game to me. And though the game isn't great, the meme sure as heck is.
The critical gamer in me gives Ghosts and Goblins a 4 out of 10. This game was designed to swallow quarters, and honestly, judging it from that alone, there are dozens of better games to sink money into the arcade cabinets than this, considering how those games are actually fun to play. The qualities that make this game so memorable are the same qualities that make it a bad video game.
Well, what do you think? Tell us how your positive and critical sides rate Ghosts and Goblins in the comments below.
But if you believe a game is bad due to its difficulty alone, then yourself feel playeth welling.
Special thanks to Rowan from Patreon for requesting this episode. And thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe for more, and use the links in the description to nominate your own episodes. And thank you to our Patreon members, Atomic Thomas, Cameron, Arrow, Rowan, Erica, Shayam, Minya, Sid, Squad Fam, and Crystal. Booyah!